This video is kindly sponsored by Dashlane. Keep your digital life secure and never forget a password ever again.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Ali. I'm a junior doctor working in Cambridge, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Apple Watch Series 4, a watch that I've been wearing every single day for the last 6 months. As usual, we'll start with the overall conclusion and whether it's worth it. So if that's all you're here for, that's fine. But then I'll go into a bit more detail about the 5 main use cases that I personally use the watch for, and then right at the end, we'll do a little discussion about whether those are really worth the £400 or $400 price tag. So in conclusion, I absolutely love my Apple Watch. I use it every single day and it adds a small amount of convenience to my life in the form of notifications, Apple Pay, music and audiobook control, Google Maps, and 2-factor authentication with Dashlane. More importantly, I think it looks really pretty as an accessory and it goes with every outfit that I wear. And in a way, it lets me signal to people that I'm, a cool guy who's into tech and all that sort of stuff. Is all of this really worth the £400 or $400 price tag? That's a bit more complicated. In my opinion, I think it is worth it. I do not regret the money I spent on this. I'm glad I spent the money on it, but it's a bit more complicated than that. And whether it's worth it will depend on your personal circumstances a lot. And I'll discuss that more at the end of the video in this timestamp if you want to skip forward ahead. So that was the overall conclusion. If that's all you're here for, then that's fantastic. Could you please drop a like on this video and then do something better with your life? But for the rest of the video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the specs, and then I'll talk about some of the use cases that I've found that add value to my own life using the Apple Watch Series 4. Okay, I don't normally comment on specs because since like 2015, specs for things like phones and iPads and stuff haven't really made any difference to anyone's life. But for the Apple Watch, that's not the case. I used to have the Apple Watch Series 1 and it was really bloody slow, to the point where it was just quicker to whip out my phone from my skinny jeans, try and squeeze it out, look on my phone and do whatever I need to do. That's not the case with the Series 4. This thing is lightning fast. I have never once noticed it being slow. And also, the screen bezels are a lot thinner than they used to be. It feels like an edge-to-edge display. And although this is the 44mm one, the size feels similar to the old one, but there is a lot more screen real estate. So yeah, specs are good and speed is good and screen bezels are good. That's what I'm going to say about specs. I don't like talking about specs. All right, so none of these use cases are life-changing in any way at all. They're just very small conveniences that add a small amount of convenience to your day-to-day life. And if you think that is worth the £400 price tag, then fair enough, I personally do. There's 5 main things. First one is notifications. So I like getting some notifications on the Apple Watch. I like getting email notifications because then I can decide if it's something I need to bust out my phone or iPad for, and then I can reply to the email. Or I can just archive it directly from the Apple Watch, which means overall I spend less time checking my phone and less time triaging email on my phone. I also like getting Instagram DM notifications because I'm all popular and stuff, or at least I like to think so. I get a few tens of Instagram DMs each day where it's like someone has requested to send you an Instagram message, and that's kind of nice. Like, I'm in the middle of work, I have a look at the watch and be like, oh, someone wants to talk to me. It's like a little burst of endorphin release that makes me feel happy throughout the day. Point number 2 is Apple Pay. Now, I absolutely love using Apple Pay on the Apple Watch. It's like the reason I don't even carry a wallet around with me anymore. It's great in the UK because the vast majority of shops now accept contactless, so I can just double tap on the Apple Watch, scroll through my Visa or my American Express or my Monzo card, depending on how I'm feeling. And occasionally it does strike up a conversation with, I don't know, the barista behind the counter or someone in the queue where I'm paying. Everyone's like, oh, that's all very fancy, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, gosh, so high tech. It's really annoying when it doesn't work, because then you look like an absolute twat because you've tried to pay with your fancy, expensive watch and it just hasn't worked, and then you feel very, your face goes all red and you have to dig out your phone and do the whole Face ID, make Face ID work so then you can actually pay with your American Express card or whatever. I don't know why I'm signaling the fact that I've got an American Express. So yeah, if you didn't have the Apple Watch, then the alternative would be to get your phone out and use Apple Pay on that. It saves you about 2 seconds each time. It's not really a big deal, but it's quite nice to have the watch for that, because then, you tap and go, and it's just nice. Thirdly, I really like the fact that you can control music and audiobooks on the Apple Watch. So if I've got Alexa to play some stuff on Spotify, don't do anything. If I've got her playing something on Spotify and I want to change the song or shuffle, I can just open the Spotify app on the Apple Watch and change it that way. Or if I'm having a shower and I'm wearing my watch, I usually have some kind of music playing through my waterproof Bluetooth speaker in the shower, and if it's a bad song, I can just change it on the Apple Watch because this one is waterproof, so it can survive in the shower. Fourthly, I quite like the Maps feature sometimes if I'm having to find a new place in London or roam around town and then I've got directions on my phone. I can use Apple Maps to send the directions to the Apple Watch, and it will give me turn-by-turn directions, which means I don't have to kind of look at my phone as I'm walking around. I can just kind of get the vibration on the Apple Watch, be like, oh, turn right onto Long Road, and I will turn right onto Long Road. Sadly, this doesn't work with Google Maps, only Apple Maps, but hey, that's the price we pay for having the convenience of the Apple Watch. And finally, one thing I've started doing regularly on the Apple Watch is using the app Dashlane as a form of two-factor authentication. So because I've got two-factor authentication enabled on all the accounts that I care about, instead of when I'm logging into like a new computer having to dig out my phone and use Authenticator, instead I just open up the Dashlane app on my Apple Watch and it generates the two-factor authentication codes automatically. So I can just see them on the Apple Watch and I can enter them in, and that saves me a few seconds of my life each day where I don't have to get out my phone. It's again the story of Apple Watch saving you a few seconds. By the way, if you haven't heard of it, Dashlane is a fantastic password and identity manager. They're very kindly sponsoring this video, and I've been using it on my MacBook, my iPad, my iPhone, and now my Apple Watch for the past several months. 3 main reasons why I like it. Firstly, it makes me more efficient when I'm on the computer because every time it recognizes that you're logging into something, it just instantly fills in your login details to the point where you sometimes don't even see the login screen, you just automatically log in, which is awesome. Secondly, it stores all of my thousands of passwords securely, which is really nice, and again, it can generate new ones for new websites that I register with. And finally, it stores all of my credit and debit card details securely, so if I ever want to buy something on the iPhone or on the iPad or on the MacBook or whatever, I can just autofill the credit card details, which means, again, I don't have to carry my wallet around, which is just quite nice. Very excitingly, Dashlane has over 10 million users in 150 countries, so if you fancy giving it a try, you can go to dashlane.com/Abdaal, that's Abdaal, that's my surname if you didn't know, and you can use that link to get 10% off if you fancy upgrading to the premium membership option. So how do we decide if something is objectively worth the money you spend on it? If you've seen my previous tech reviews, you'll know I've got a 3-part framework. Number 1, does it make me any happier? Number 2, does it remove any salient negatives from my life? And number 3, does it allow me to do or make anything that adds more value to my life? And the answer to the Apple Watch is no on all 3 counts. So as far as, this attempt at creating an objective measure of whether something is worth it goes, the Apple Watch is not worth it. In fact, I would argue that it will never be worth it to spend £400 on a watch, let alone the thousands of pounds that some people spend on really fancy watches. But do I regret buying it? And the answer to that is no, I don't regret buying it. I'm quite glad I have this. And personally, even though it's objectively not worth the money, I think subjectively it is quite nice to have, provided you can comfortably afford it. If I were in my student days or in my secondary school days and I were having to tutor for, I don't know, £20 an hour, in order to save up the £300, £400 that I needed for this watch, I wouldn't get it because there are far better uses of my money. I'd, much rather buy a new digital camera, buy a Kindle and like a ton of non-fiction books for it that are going to add value to my life, buy a subscription to Audible, to read audiobooks. But, there's all this stuff that can add so much more value to our life than the small amount of convenience that the Apple Watch adds. But if you're in the position where you're financially pretty stable, spending £300-400 on a watch is not, outside the realms of possibility. And if you can sort of imagine yourself spending £400 on a standard, analog watch and, being reasonably okay with that, it's not going to break the bank, not going to change your life, then by all means, go for the Apple Watch. If you're into tech, if you're into this sort of stuff, it does look quite nice. And it does, as I said at the start, it lets you signal to people that you are a tech person because, arguably the whole point of accessories and things like this is, this element of signaling. You are showing people that I'm the sort of person that has an Apple Watch, therefore I want you to make these assumptions about me. And even though, it sounds weird to say out loud, and even though we should all probably not be thinking that way, I think that is a strong component about why people spend money on luxury products like the Apple Watch. It lets us signal. So yeah, if you can comfortably afford it, then I don't think you'll be disappointed with this if you're a techie. If you cannot comfortably afford it, then please do not buy the Apple Watch. It's absolutely not worth you saving your hard-earned cash for this. Buy a camera instead. I guarantee it'll add 100 times more value to your life. Buy a Kindle and some non-fiction books instead. Again, I guarantee that will add 100 times more value to your life than, this piece of plastic that I've got sitting on my wrist. So that was a review of the Apple Watch Series 4. In conclusion, I quite like it. It's a luxury product, definitely, that adds a very tiny amount of convenience to my life. But because I can comfortably afford it, and again, it's going to sound weird saying this out loud, but I don't care. We need to talk about money, and we should all be more candid about talking about money. Because, by the grace of God, I can comfortably afford to spend £400 on a watch and think really nothing of it. I think it's worth it. If you're not in that position, it's not going to be worth it. It's not going to add any value to your life. Don't do it. Spend your money on something better instead. So thank you for watching. I hope you liked that video. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then please consider doing so. Have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Goodbye.